Next, let's talk about time series analysis. Or in other words, we're going to look at how are our metrics performing over time. The most simple, yet probably the most effective way to do this is with a line chart. So let's open up a new sheet within Tableau, and we can very quickly double click on our week ID, and we can click on sales. So if we hit this Show Me tab, we can very quickly choose between a few different options. So we can choose to visualize this in a continuous line chart or a discrete. So it's telling us that we should probably do discrete, which I actually disagree with, and let me show you why. So right now it is aggregated to the year time period. It's not a very interesting line chart right now. But if we hit this plus icon here, we now can see it visualized by quarter. If we hit it again, we can then see it by month, and then we can also see it by day. This looks pretty horrendous to me from a data visualization standpoint. So if we head over to the Show Me tab, we can actually change this very quickly to a continuous line chart. That looks much better in my opinion. But getting back to our lecture on our data source, I think we need to bring up the conversation of, are we actually visualizing this time series data correctly? If you'll recall, our fiscal and our calendar year do not map one-to-one. In other words, the first week of our sales calendar starts in February. So right now, we're seeing our trends across a line chart that starts on January 1. So this doesn't seem right to me. And the reason being is that you need to visualize your data in terms that your end user is going to understand. So if your end user sees week 1 as actually February 8th, then you need to have your axis depict that. So one way we could do that would be to fix this axis, or we actually have another data point that we could work with, which is our week number ID. So instead of fixing the axis, I actually wanted to convert this from a metric to a dimension. And part of the reason why is that it actually just uncovers some even more interesting insight. So right now, week number ID is actually classified wrong within Tableau. Week number ID is not a metric. This is actually a dimension. So what we can do to quickly fix this error is click on week number ID and drag it up into the dimensions. So if we were to try to visualize this though, let's see what happens. So you can do week number ID, and then we can do sales. So that looks like it might be correct. But if we head over to the Show Me tab, what happens is we cannot visualize it within a line chart. And the reason for this is a little bit of a nuanced answer. So if we head over to week ID or week number ID, we can hit this drop down, and we actually need to convert it to continuous. So right now it is saying each of these numbers is a discrete value. So you're looking at 1, then you're looking at 2, then you're looking at 3, instead of looking at it from a spectrum from 1 to 52. So if we convert this to a continuous value, and for some reason you have to drag it back in and out, now we can actually visualize this correctly. So here we go. So we can see that we have our week number ID, and for some reason the axis is still not showing correctly. So what we can do is change this to start at 1 and end at 52. So now that's looking much better in my opinion. One last thing, let's change this to weekly sales. And we can also delete sheet 3.